Can the Heat compete for the top of the East? Draymond or Klay? You can only keep one. What will OKC do if the Russ Paul George experiment isn't working? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast. Today I am with James Hollis, a.k.a. at Snotty Drippin'. I'm wearing my pink knee undies, and I have to tell you, these are really, really comfortable undies. And so comfortable, I had my wife take a picture of me, and then I tweeted that shit out. They're pink. I'm telling you, there's something about it that makes me feel even, more comfortable.
The fact that your wife agreed to that, you guys are a couple, a match made in heaven, or somewhere else, made somewhere else. But
that's right. That's right. If she only liked basketball, then we'd really be in business. So
your wife doesn't even like basketball?
Not really. No. Neither do my kids. It kind of kills me.
Do they just kind of tolerate the fact that you talk so much basketball then?
Oh yeah, it's like, especially if we're out and about, like with with another couple or whatever, and then I start talking basketball with the guy. It's like the garage door closes, and it's like they just connect and go somewhere else and talk something else. So yes, it is what it is. So let that be a lesson to anybody out there, that if you do find a woman who you're interested in, or whoever you want to fall in love with, and if they love basketball, don't lose them. Keep them forever. So we are going to do a question and answer, I think, from Twitter. I think that's our thing for today. However, we do have a little bit to talk about. There's a little bit of news. The Miami Heat signed or extended one of their guards on their team. People are a little bit confused about the Josh Richardson signing, but what do you think about that, Snotty? James?
Well, you know what? He's 23. He's 6'6". He showed a lot of potential his first couple of years. Last year, he averaged like 10 points, 3 rebounds, almost 3 assists in limited minutes. He fits that Heat culture. And I think this is a case of, look, we know that, like, quote-unquote, average starter money right now is about $16 million a year. $10 million a year for a rotation player is not bad at all. Even a guy who can start in spots is not bad at all. And, they almost are doing a Boston Celtics thing where they're loading up on wings. They're not quite as big as Boston, and they're paying a lot more than Boston was paying. But, between Tyler Johnson, Justice Winslow, Dion Waiters, James Johnson, that kind of versatile, switchy guy, and now they got our guy Josh Richardson in the mix too. Rodney Magruder's on that same kind of thing too. They got a lot of like physical, kind of athletic wings. That's good. I think you can't have too many versatile wings in today's NBA. So $10 million for that, it's not bad at all. I don't mind that.
I agree. I feel like, he is a potential starter ultimately. He's getting a little bit long in the tooth at 23, or is he 24 now? I got to check real quick. But
he's still 23.
23. So,
yeah.
At some point around that 25 mark, you kind of get to where you're going to be, I think, for your career. So I really like what I've seen in those flashes. And again, yeah, if he's a rotation player and maybe even gets to be a starter, and you're paying the guy $11 million a year, that's a good deal. And I think that's the problem we're having now when we're looking at these numbers, is we just need to look at it as a percentage of the salary cap. I think that's going to be the new way we look at this going forward, because there's no way to compare these prices anymore. $11 million 5 years ago was a lot more than it is now. And
For sure.
But you can compare the percentage of the salary cap. That's another way to look at it. So I like what he can do. I think he has a nice jumper. The mechanics are there. Let's not forget Tyler Johnson's out there too, who I really like as well. So I think that the Heat are doing some really good things. They might be a sleeper. Do you think that they're going to compete for anything significant in the East?
No, not this year. I don't think so. I feel like they're a team of kind of, third option kind of guys, some second-ish kind of option guys waiting for a superstar, and that's what Riley's trying to do, right? I think he has all these decent and if need be, he can move contracts to bring somebody in. They don't have any money for free agents, but they've been striking out in free agency recently. So, again, I'm going to compare them to Boston, the way they looked at what Boston did. They have a great coach. They're building a strong culture. They play hard, they play together, and hopefully they're thinking, I guess, somebody looks at them and says, I want to go there. I'm tired of my team now. Send me to Miami. And they'll say, okay, and we can send you back these at least, useful pieces at decent salary. So there's a certain amount of flexibility. They're going to be good. They're going to play hard. They're deep. I don't think they're going to scare anybody in the East. I don't think so.
Fair enough. I think that's pretty accurate. We'll see. I mean, it'll be a pleasant surprise if Dion, detonates again this year and shows us that he has understood how to play in the NBA. That would be. There's some pieces there. Whiteside, So I'm intrigued to say the least, and they could be, at the very least, they could be a fun team to watch and see. So
my question to you though is, if I compare him to Boston. Who has to be their Isaiah Thomas? Who has to be that guy to really step up and like play like a superstar, even if they're not a superstar? Is it Dion?
Yeah, it's going to have to be Dion. Which you're right, that kind of actually. But it's, you never know. I mean, here's the thing. I think Dion can do it against the bottom 15 defenses in the league, right?
I mean, Dion did it against the Warriors last year. He did it against good teams last year.
Yeah,
Dion
that is true.
was surprisingly. I mean, there was that streak. I think I did the math. They went 30-11 the second half of the season, but they really had a nice stretch where they went like 21-5, or 22-5, and that's when Dion. He got hurt after that. That's when he averaged almost like 25-5 a game. He was playing like a superstar.
I mean, yeah, he was. Well, he was also putting the O in YOLO, so how he was playing, but. Hey, you know what? Listen, if he can prove it again, then I'm with it. He's got to show me. He's got to show he can really do that again, and for me to be completely sold. But I'm willing. I'm willing to learn.
I'm the same way. I mean, that's the big question. Can Dion play at that level for a full? That's the question.
Right,
and
because
yeah.
You watch Lost, right? The show.
I do.
So
I did.
Dion Waiters Island is much like the island that moves, and you never know exactly where it might be at what time. So that's the question. We'll find out if he can figure that out. So let's go to Twitter because we have some questions. You want to queue one up in your timeline?
Sure. I'll start. We'll start with an easy one. Dray. So this is from Basketball Jones. His name is at A Sports Jones. He wants to know Draymond or Klay. You can only keep one. And then we'll even put in for him the why we answer that. So I'll let you go first.
I always say this, and maybe everyone's going to be rolling their eyes when I say this again, but I'm at the company picnic, the NBA company picnic in July or August, right? And it's going to be they're going to have a pickup game. Everyone's there. I'm picking Draymond first, and that means I would certainly take Draymond over Klay if I had to make the decision as well.
Okay, so why? Can you tell us why?
Because, here's what happens. Everyone's like, man, you are a stupid idiot. I'm going to take LeBron. I'm like, great, I'll take KD. Good luck. I will run 5-on-5 all afternoon with KD and LeBron and Draymond against anybody else. I think that's going to be a tough team to beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And by the way, it's a toughness. It's the way he plays. It's the way he plays defense. It's the way the intensity. All of those things that drives their team. That are the intangibles almost that I really respond to. Independent of it, every once in a while when he loses his mind, which is not it seemed like he was pretty good last year. I know I'm missing a couple incidents, I'm sure, but that's what I respond to when I see that.
Well, hey, Coach, I will say. Just pick KD first. Draymond will be available at the second pick too. So,
man, now you're smarter than me. You're right. Either way it works. Yeah. But yes, I just think that's what it is especially in those pickup kind of games, and that's what I respond to. So, do you agree, or would you take Klay over Dray?
No, I would say Dray for the simple fact that his versatility is what unlocks that whole team. The fact you can play him at center and have KD beside him or whoever, Iggy beside him, and he can guard anywhere from 2 to 5. While Klay, sure, he's a great shooter. He's more of a luxury on that team than a necessity. As far as KD and Steph can replicate a lot of what Klay does. He's another bullet in the chamber when he's not there. Sure, he's a long defender, but you have to move him. You can bring in another long defender and somebody who can fill in that. But I think Draymond's uniqueness makes him more vital to what Golden State does. In fact, if we're going to say the only thing I think that can really almost derail Golden State is a serious injury, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, a serious injury to Dray. Because I think anyone else they can kind of make do with, they're still dominant without KD, still dominant. They can make do without Steph. I get how important Steph is. But Draymond not being on that team long term, I think that's going to really just kind So that's the. So I say definitely if I have to make a decision, I'm keeping Dray.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Great point. I love the point about if there's going to be an injury, that's the one that's going to really hurt them the most. So as I'm thinking about injuries, it reminds me that when my body aches, I like to make it feel better by eating good food. And that is what our friends over at Blue Apron provide, the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. For less than $10 a person, you get the exact amount of each ingredient required, eliminating food waste, along with very easy to follow directions that only take 30 minutes to prepare. In no time, you and the people you live with can be enjoying delicious garlic butter shrimp and corn with green bean salad and roasted purple tomatoes. My mouth is literally watering right now thinking about all those delicious colors bursting in my mouth. Their recipes have huge variety and can be custom tailored to your individual taste. And best of all, when you visit blueapron.com/Coach Nick, you'll get your first 3 meals free. There's no risk here, and they fully guarantee you'll like the meal or they will make it right. So head to blueapron.com/Coach Nick now for your free meals and life of delicious culinary fulfillment. We have another question here, which it's kind of a throwback, but Swaco at its BP though asks, prime Brandon Roy or prime Stevie franchise?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I'll take this one first. I think people compare, and they say that don't make that face, Coach. And they say that
no, I'm making the face because you cut out for like 2 seconds, but no worries.
Oh, people make the comparison like maybe Russell Westbrook, and even I heard somebody say Fultz could be like Stevie franchise. And people, I think a lot of fans today don't realize how good Stevie franchise was in his prime. But Brandon Roy, I think, was the total package. And while he wasn't the explosive athlete that Steve Francis was, he basically could do it all on the court. He could play off ball, he could play on ball, and I think that's probably who people should think that they want Fultz to be like. Because Roy had a good size. He was 6'5", I think. He could guard. You know, he was a strong defender. He wasn't a great defender, strong defender, and he was a great passer. He could be your lead guard. I would probably, if I'm saying I'm going to build a franchise, I'm taking him and he was a winner. You know, I hate to use that kind of a trite term. He seemed to be like he made winning plays and win. While franchise was a great bucket getter, but you know he wasn't the smartest player. So if you tell me I'm picking one to build a team around, I'm taking Brandon Roy. Who you got?
You know, the funny thing with Brandon Roy is what I responded to him with or about or whatever he made me respond to is he was kind of mean. You know, there was something about him that he was going to do what he was going to do on that court, and he didn't give a crap about anybody else. You know, he was going to get it done. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to sort of describe because everyone, is a nice guy, I'm sure, off the court, but the way he played, it was almost like I don't know, it's hard for me to describe, but there was some primal, I don't know if it was anger, but there was something about it. Like, I know when I played, and I used to be a really good defender, that was the kind of guy I did not want to guard because he would just like literally just bowl me right over to get his buckets, right? He didn't care. And that's you got to be worried about because you don't know what he's going to do. So that was what I responded to. I think when I first started watching Brandon Roy in his prime. And it is too bad that he ended soon. Stevie Francis was a really impressive athlete in that Russ mold, in that Marbury mold. It's hard, especially in that era where they weren't shooting the threes as much. The ball dominant point guards were still not quite. It's still a new thing, right then. And
yep.
So I think that the criticism was even higher then than it is now, and so it was harder for me to watch it. I kind of, I was probably still stuck in those traditional point guard role players back then, and so it was harder for me. But he was good. But I think Brandon Roy just had some intangibles that you mentioned, and I'm trying to describe very poorly that I would take him for sure.
No, you did a good job. I mean, Roy played with a not even an edge. But you're right. He was doing anything to win. He was a really aggressive, strong player, and that's. I got the next one. Let's go with my man, 21 Sadness, Prospadrino. Where do you rank DeMar if you're making a list like Sports Illustrated or ESPN? DeMar DeRozan. That's a good question.
Oh, do you know where they listed him on this one? I haven't even paid attention. People are freaking out about it.
I haven't either. But let's say, people. So the thing with DeMar is people are saying he's not a top 30 player in the NBA. And I don't that. So I'll look it up while you. Where do you think DeMar ranks among players?
I mean, again, it's really tough because it's usually I'm like, well, I gotta look at the list and just really like stare. Okay, is that guy there? And where is he? And where's this? So that's tough. You know, it's weird. You know, he's a guy that plays just like Kobe and scores almost like Kobe as far as, you know, the production wise goes. You know, his defense is fine, is average. So, you know, I think what's going to end up holding him back in this day and age is the fact that he can't space that floor, and that ultimately what we see in the playoffs, because of those tough shots, they just don't go down as often, just because it's the playoffs. So, you know, to me, it's almost like, well, how high is he up in the shooting guard ranks?
He's number 36 in the SI ranking this year, up from 46 last year. That's Sports Illustrated.
I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. I would say he's in the top 40, right?
That's crazy to me. I mean, I get it if he's not top 15, but for him not to be top like 20, the guy averaged almost 27, like 5 rebounds and 4 assists a game. Yeah, and I get what you're saying about. I get what you're saying about he doesn't space the floor, but he still produces. And I'm starting to think we really undervalue just flat out production, especially if a guy you want him to score. He gives you 27 a game. He gives it to you in a phone booth, and he lets other guys just be themselves because they don't have to worry about trying to score. You know,
yeah. And, you know, you're right. So where would he rank in with the shooting guards? It's so funny because Dave and I were talking earlier today about the top 5 shooting guards. And I don't even think he came up.
And you know what? I understand he's right on the cusp. He's because obviously it's James Harden number 1.
Okay, so you want to put Harden there?
I think Harden's number 1 as far as
I mean, but you want to put him in the shooting guard list.
Well, Chris Paul now, right? So
okay.
If we're just doing a traditional style, Chris Paul's the point guard and Harden be the 2 guard. Okay. I think Jimmy Butler to me is number 2 because Jimmy Butler's ability to handle the ball and play make puts him over Klay Thompson to me. So I got Jimmy Butler 2, and I got Klay. You know, Klay's fine at 3, and that's like really the only one I'm really hard locked into. I know Bradley Beal's coming strong. I know. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Who am I forgetting?
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious! There's probably a couple of guys. I used to have the shooting guard list in my head so well too.
We're gonna get yelled at so bad for this one. But I know a guy like Chris Middleton. I get he's not that flashy scorer, but he's such an all-around good player. He's in the discussion. Who the hell are we missing?
Gordon Hayward.
See, I think of him as a small forward. But either, if you have fine. Same thing with Paul George, he's small forward. So who the hell are we missing?
Well, the guy we talked about earlier today was Gary Harris, who we think is going to make a beeline up that list this year. But you know, I mean, you're right. Danny Green is, you know, I don't know.
Danny, he's not up there.
You're right. Like Beal is in that conversation certainly, and you know. And it's about. I mean, maybe like, you know, but Dwayne Wade is down, you know, the way he is now. So you're right. It's not the longest, not a long list. Although I know last year I made a pretty good argument. I thought for like the top 5 or 6 shooting guards were really good.
They're all really good. Yeah. Like last year, people were saying JJ Redick, but I think a lot of that was dependent on him playing with Chris Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens in Philly this year. So, I mean, really good question and interesting stuff. So, and there's something else you should be giving a legitimate shot at. Bombfell, an easier way for men to get better clothing. It's as simple as completing a questionnaire, which then gets you matched up with your very own dedicated personal stylist. I'm not saying you're going to be friends with them, but you're going to want to be when you see how well they match the clothes with your personal taste. When you sign up, you pay nothing. You only pay for the clothes you keep, free shipping and returns, and you can preview the clothes your stylist picked out for you before they send them. I'm literally wearing an awesome button-down shirt that Bombfell delivered right to my door. It's really soft, very high quality, makes me look thin, and it fits me like a ball swishes in the net. Well, you get the idea. And it doesn't stop there. Go to bombfell.com/CoachNick. That's BOMBFELL.com/CoachNick, and you'll get $25 off your first purchase. Imagine going to the mall to shop for clothes. Now imagine sitting on your couch with the game on and your feet up to shop for clothes. It's completely flexible. You decide how often you'll receive clothes, and you can pause or cancel at any time. You only pay for the clothes you keep, and they never charge above retail price. My favorite part is trying on all the clothes for my wife and we do it just like a cheesy 80s montage, right down to the big thumbs up from her when she likes what Bombfell sent. So head over to bombfell.com/CoachNick, save $25 on your first purchase, and start strutting down the street in some serious style. Plus, this is one of the best taglines I've ever heard. Check it out. Bombfell, open and clothes. So where we leave that off? Where we left this?
So I think he's at least at the very outside top 25. Because when I say top 30, I think if they had a draft, like they just shuffled all the players together and they said every team, Rosen wouldn't be one of the first 30 players picked.
Yeah, I won't fight you on that.
Right. So I get it. Some people say, well, no, a lot of teams will go with younger talent who might not be as good, and that makes sense. But if we're just talking about straight talent right now, there's just been this groundswell to really say that like DeMar DeRozan is not a good player, and I don't know where it's coming from.
No, no, he's good. He's good. It's just I think there's a frustration in the playoffs and where they're going, and it's also a function of the offense, which is a function of KC and stuff like that too, which yields very difficult shots that could be prepared for. So we'll see what happens. Everyone's sleeping on the Raptors this year, and maybe rightfully so. Yeah,
I'm with you. I think people are a little too. The roster stale, all this. No, I think adding Serge is really going to kind of give them a little boost. And DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are really good. So yeah. I think they're definitely still going to be a really good team.
All right, next question is from Denzel, at Denzel9651. If you're the Thunder in the middle to end of the season, you see Paul George is not going to re-sign, you flip him the Cavs for the Brooklyn pick, ?
I think that you're basically you're punting on Russell Westbrook too, right? Because unless he tells you, unless he comes to you and tells you, hey, listen, I'm a part of this, move me right now. That's Paul George doing that. I think you kind of roll the dice and you let this one rock out because you got two top 15 players in the NBA. You don't know what can happen at any given moment. Like we just said, knock on wood, I don't wish injury on any other team. But I think that OKC will be that good this year where, sure, they're not Golden State, but they're that next tier below just because on the strength of having those two dynamic players and the defense. I think they're going to roll out there with Roberson and Steven Adams. So I think if you're going to just tear it all down, why would you have to do it mid-season? You could do that. You could do that this summer. You know what I mean? Because what do you? Yeah, I get it. Because then Cleveland said they want Paul George right now for a playoff run, but I don't know, man. That's tough. That's tough. I get logically it makes sense to just say it's best for the team to get that pick, and then Russ can decide what he wants to do, next summer, and then it's going to be a full-on rebuild. But I think they kind of owe it to their fans to try to roll it out there. So I don't know. That's tough. What do you say?
Do you think that they're going to be like third or fourth in the Western Conference?
For sure. Yeah. Okay. I think Golden State's obviously the head and shoulders above everybody else. I get it. Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets is a big deal, and they added some good defenders. I really think OKC is going to be they won 47 last year somehow. You can almost tack I think you could tack almost like 6 or 7 or 8 wins onto that. They're going to be really good.
Okay, maybe we'll see. I'm intrigued. And certainly we know that Paul George, I don't think, is coming back. Now that they paved the way to allow the Lakers to sign him and not penalize him for the tampering, I just think it's a lock no matter what. And we'll have to find out if Paul George is going to like playing with Russell Westbrook. Because obviously that's going to be the only thing that's going to maybe sway him. If they can get to like third in the conference and really compete, right? Like what's going to keep Paul George there? They'd have to do surprisingly well, right? They'd have to get to like the conference finals, I think, right?
Yeah, and I'm being really optimistic about it because I'm a big Russell Westbrook guy. So Paul George has never played. He's never played with a player of that caliber before, and I think he's gonna as much as the I think Russell Westbrook learned a lesson playing with Kevin Durant than not having Kevin Durant, and he realized how much he needs that. And I think Paul George is going to be impressed by having a player of that caliber beside him, and maybe enough to get him to stay around. Yeah. But I think they got to have success. You're right. They got to be really good to even make him consider it. So. All
right. What do you got?
Next question. I was going to say, yes. I don't think they flip. So you think they should flip it? You ask a question?
Oh, yeah. I think that, right, because they won't know at that point if they're going to make the conference finals or not or whatever. So that's an interesting question. You see, See, the funny thing about the Brooklyn pick would be that we're all thinking it's not going to be as high as people might think it might be. So that's what you got to wait for. We'll know in February probably where that pick's going to be, or pretty close, I think. And so that's the real question for me. So I would be 50-50 on it at this moment, but I would probably be leaning to flipping him for that pick most likely.
That would be such a blow for Thunder fans, man. So that, you know what? That actually links to another question we had from my man Nick Latorno. Does the Zeller signing move the needle on the net pick for y'all? Saw people saying the Cavs definitely need to trade it now. So I don't think either. Are you up on the Zeller signing?
I am not. This just happened.
This is compelling. This is awfully compelling radio here.
Yeah.
While we're both looking up Zeller signing to see exactly where he went.
Oh, the Nets signed him.
So which Zeller? Signed him?
So Tyler Zeller went from Boston to Brooklyn, and I don't know. He's not been a needle mover to me for I don't think he is. So
okay, so here's the thing. So I'm I'm not a huge stats guy, but I know that a lot of people were high on Zeller in Boston because he was one of those plus minus darlings kind of. When he was on the court, the defense rating was good, and he didn't play a lot of minutes obviously the last couple of years. But I've never been impressed by him. But he seemed like a smart guy who just kind of knew how to play basketball.
Right, which is something that the Nets certainly need a lot more of. But there's no question offensively he was terrible. Often and maybe even more terrible than I'd ever seen him before. Like there were flashes earlier in his career. I don't know what happened the last couple of seasons, but man, there were moments where it was like, what are you doing on the floor? But you're right, defensively, I think that there was a bit of an anchor there. He was okay, and maybe a change of scenery will get him out of that rut as well. But certainly, it helps the Nets. But the Nets are coming from 23 or 24 wins, so But I don't know. But I have an interesting question here. From Muley Yuli at John Mom Placer asks, if LeBron leaves Cleveland, what teams are the best and worst fits for him? Where is your dream landing spot for him?
That's really tough. I see a lot of people say the Spurs, and that'd be amazing to see him and Kawhi, right? I just don't know how to make that money work, but if there's any way, because I really think him and Kawhi together are enough to maybe kind of push Golden State. I don't know if they'll beat them, but at least it makes it really interesting. And seeing him with Pop. The issue about that is realistically we know that LeBron James' brand is the apex predator. It comes into town and it takes over everything. It hits the top of the food chain. So he comes in. He's not going to come into San Antonio and have his buddies hanging. Buddies. Have his compatriots, his coworkers, his group with him, like on the plane, and just kind of have a hand in everything. That's not happening in San Antonio, so I don't know how that works.
Right.
But I don't see it. Like people say, Los Angeles, if they don't get another star, and even if they do, I mean, nobody's scared of LeBron and Paul George and Brandon Ingram. Nobody, they're just not.
And Lonzo Ball.
And whatever, and Lonzo Ball, yeah. So that's even funnier because I mean, like LeBron is best as the big point forward. So what do you do with Lonzo Ball now? You know what I mean? Like that's not even a great fit to me. So it's really hard at this stage in his. Let's talk about that because there was a time when you would move heaven and earth to get LeBron James on your team, right? You would anything because if you get him on your team, you're going to go to the finals. In this current environment with Golden State dominating the West and LeBron James, he's going to be 33 this year, 34, 33. Like, how much do you really give up to bring in LeBron James?
Right.
And, how much is that worth to you as a franchise? Sure, I know in the short term it's worth everything because you butts in the seats. You're going to win a lot of basketball games.
But you're not giving up anything. He's going to sign as a free agent, right?
Well, I'm saying in general, so that's what I'm trying to shift in the question a little bit. Oh. Any other team, but see, and no team has the money other than Los Angeles right now. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at it realistically. So you're going to have to make room for LeBron James if any team is going to bring him in.
Yeah.
How much do you sacrifice right now for LeBron James, and how many years do you get from him? You know what I mean?
I just feel like they're asking for the best fit and the worst fit is, and whatever the Lakers fit might or might not be. I think the worst fit for him is anywhere in the West. I don't know why he'd ever want to go there, especially with the Warriors. If he stays in the East, he's going to have a chance almost on any team in the East to get to the finals at least, and then who knows what happens there. So so the best fit for him in the East. I mean, you could almost argue like going to the Sixers or something like that, right? And teaming up with Embiid and Fultz, and if they really develop this year and are good, that's interesting to me. Or the Bucks, with Giannis and Middleton, like that's interesting as well. So that's where I would do. I don't know why he'd ever consider the West at all.
Yeah, that's always been a funny thing to me. Like people say he wants to go out to improve something out West. I mean, he'll prove that he can't get to the finals out West because he's not beating Golden State and getting to the finals. He's just not doing it anywhere out West. So yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I got too deep into it. We're talking about just a dream fit for him.
Yeah.
You need shooters everywhere, and you need like another kind of primetime player. I'm racking my brains. Denver.
Yeah,
plays like Denver, I guess. I mean, that'd be fun. Him and Blake Griffin for the Clippers.
Yeah, the Clippers are interesting to me somehow, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, and I guess I'm not the biggest LeBron rah-rah fan, so there's no dream scenario. I don't dream about LeBron James anywhere. I got yelled at because people were saying, "Oh, you do anything to get him on in Boston," and I wouldn't because guess what? He's signing a 1-year deal. You don't know if he's coming back. You got to clear space for him, so now you moved a lot of things and you moved picks for him, and it's like we've seen the LeBron show before to the point where even though it's still great to look at, I wouldn't want my franchise to go through that circus.
Yeah, and by the way, you called it a drone predator. No, what did you say?
He's an apex predator.
All right. I mean, Kyrie might call it the blob, but at any rate, interesting. I got a question here. Ario at 1v1 Killa asks, what's it going to take from Kawhi this year to dethrone Russ from King of the Jordan brand? Now, this is interesting because we don't normally talk about, branding and the pop culture side of this thing. But this does fold in on my Kawhi is not a superstar argument.
It does, and I get your argument for it. We have different definitions of why I would call a guy a superstar. But as far as marketing, it would take Kawhi Leonard to all of a sudden show some. It would take for Kawhi to win the MVP this year, maybe. But even still, like I said, he's just and it's just who he is. I respect that about him. He's just such about his business kind of guy. While Russ is so flashy and flamboyant, Russ, I don't think we talked about how Russ just signed a 10-year deal with Jordan Brand, like the biggest Jordan deal ever since Michael Jordan himself, and that's because of who he is and his game and his fire, and he's so. I think he had one of the best-selling jerseys this year. That's Westbrook.
Right, but it's also Russ. He is so good in those commercials. You know what I mean? He is so hilarious to me. We forgot to follow up on that the Mountain Dew commercial when the guy drinks the thing and his shirt is all And what does he say at the end? He goes, "That's whack, dude." Whatever he says, anyway, just perfect what he says. Anyway, so yeah, I think you're right. I think Kawhi, but we've seen there is a little twinkle in Kawhi's eye in those commercials, the supermarket commercials in San Antonio.
But you know what? Those are San Antonio commercials. Like the world doesn't see those. I've never seen those commercials. I haven't seen a single one.
When I started saying he hadn't done any commercials, like all of a sudden I got flooded with all those.
And that's the thing, right? Like I get it. Sure, great. He does local commercials in San Antonio.
And where he doesn't speak hardly at all in them. So. Yeah. You're right, and that's the problem, and that's why I feel like that's what the superstar that next level. It doesn't take anything away from him being a top 3 player in the league. I just feel like there's something you got to fill in there when you're talking about superstar. That you got to have that flair and that charisma. So. Interesting question though, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think what you said, how you outlined it, is pretty much it. But he'd have to really make a 180 on those commercials. I hate to be surface like that, but that would probably do something to shake it. But it sounds like Russ is now firmly ensconced for several years as their guy, as
he should be, because he's the man. My guy Matthew Curley, Curley _synergy. He asked a joke question first. Then he wanted to know on a serious note. Which second-year player do you think will have the biggest jump, and which will be a disappointment? So I actually brought up the draft from last year, right? And I'm looking at the players. So we got guys like Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, Dragon Bender, Chris Dunn, Hield, Murray, Marquise Chris, Jacob Poeltl. I think. So I'm going to make a lot of people happy here because I haven't been the highest on him. I think Thon Maker is going to make a pretty big jump, right? Number 10 pick last year. Showed flashes. I think with more playing time and another, summer under his belt, with a year under his belt, he's going to look really good. Malik Beasley, I think, is a breakout kind of guy. And, my guy, Karis LeVert with Brooklyn. I like him a lot. His nickname is Baby Durant for a reason. I think he is going to kind of step into if he steps into the potential that people see in him, then I could understand when people say how the Nets might make a big jump this year, because the guy can really flat out play. He's like 6'8", 6'9". He can get up and down the court. Are you looking at the list right now? Do you see it?
I am. My pick, I talked about this with Dave earlier, I think, was going to be, I think Buddy Hield is going to have a bigger breakout year. I know they brought in some other guards in there, and he might end up having some struggling to get as many minutes as he deserves. But I feel like the Kings are going to do something here, and I think Buddy's going to crack that 21, 22 point per game level. Wait, was that where he was?
Wow.
Let me check where he was, because he did really well when he went to Sacramento last year. In Sacramento, he averaged 15 a game. He shot 43% from three on high volume. So, yeah, I think he's breaking 20 a game this year.
Wow, that's a big deal. I also want to throw out the name our guy Murray in San Antonio, DeJounte Murray, because we know he has talent. We know that Tony Parker's not maybe 100% for the season to start off. We know that Patty Mills is great as a backup and in small spurts. I don't know if he's ready. I don't know how good they are in big minutes. So I think Murray has a good chance to step in and be an impact player this year too.
He does, but you have the wrong Murray. It's Jamal Murray who's going to end up having the impact. I think with that Denver team, it's going to cause a lot of people. A lot of people are sleeping on them big time, I think we're going to wake up in the middle of March and realize, oh my God, Denver is screwing up everyone's bracket. So we'll have to find out. But
so you think Denver? What do you think Denver is going to end up in the West this year? Are you really high on them?
I think they're going to surprise everybody. So I'm thinking like at least fifth.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, who knows if they're going to stay healthy, but they got a lot of good talent. They got a good coach. They're building on something.
How do you see them work? Do you think Paul Millsap? He's a great defender individually. Do you think he's enough to make up for their defensive efficiencies? Because they were pretty bad last year.
I think. Well, I don't know. And maybe they'll just outscore everybody then. But I think he'll be able to help. He's a smart defender, and he knows how to play. And with the full training camp with all these guys, I think that remember Mike Malone was the architect of that number one defense for the Warriors originally. So you guys roll your eyes.
No, because that's why my issue with saying Jokic is like the best center in the league. All this, he doesn't play defense.
Yeah,
and when you're that's the one position that you need.
Yeah. Well, maybe he'll if he can block a few shots and grab high volume rebounds, and maybe at least there and mitigate some of the other issues. But you're right. But either way,
so you're on Jamal Murray as the biggest jump next year.
Well, I would say Buddy and then Jamal. Those are Buddy and Jamal. Guys. I'm liking like Thon. I just don't know if Thon Maker is going to end up having like gaudy stats or not. I think he'll get a lot of extra playing time. He'll be a difference maker. He'll be an impact player. But I also don't know if he's going to score a ton of points and get a ton of rebounds. Maybe he'll get some.
I'm changing my answer anyway.
What are you?
I'm changing my answer anyway. I'm going to go with my boy Marquise Chris.
All right.
I think Marquise Chris has a nice season this year. They're not going to be good, but I think he's going to look more like an NBA player than he did last year. And I like him a lot. I love his physical tools. I think he starts to put together this season. So that's my big jump. Who's your big disappointment? You also want to know about a disappointment.
Boy. As we got to wrap this up real quick because I got to get out of here. But
crap.
Let's it's late. The biggest disappointment. How about Zipser? I don't know.
Really? I think he's going to be really good.
I don't know. I watched enough of him last year. I was like, you know what? I don't know. We'll see. But they're going to be crappy this year, and I don't know how well he's going to do.
So real quick, I'll say Domantas Sabonis. I like him, and I like his skill set. I think he's going to be a long-term pro. I don't know. I think he's in Indiana. He'll get minutes. I didn't see a lot from him after like the first couple weeks last season.
I hear you. No, I agree. Actually, that's a better pick. So keep your eye on him. He'll have some more opportunities on a really bad team. So we'll see how that goes. But either way, James, awesome discussion. Great questions, everybody out there. Glad we can give them some love and some hype. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, James?
Oh, yeah, baby. You know I'm in. That's it. Let's do it.
I got my MeUndies on.